Hi, come on in. I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad that you're here. I was hoping you'd stop by today. I hope your day is going great. If we haven't met, my name is Michelle and this is Life Changes. I hope you'll come again. I hope you'll hit subscribe and join us. I wanted to share with you how the Crockpot challenge went. Remember, I was using this cookbook. I wanted to let you know how it went. So if you haven't joined us before, for the entire month of March, I cooked in this old girl right here. And most of my menus, except for a few, were here from this cookbook. You see on my tabs? Just about all of the things that I cooked were from that cookbook. I had one or two other things. But every meal that I cooked, and I cook once and we eat twice, so I cook 3 times a week, we used the Crockpot. And I wanted to let you know how it went. Now, if you remember when I was telling you about what I was going to do, I told you about Proverbs 31:15. We all know the Proverbs 31 woman or wife. It says she gets up while it's still dark and she provides food for her family. And there were some days that's what I did. I do get up when it's dark, but I don't always come into the kitchen to start cooking supper. And there were some days that I had to remind myself to do that. I had to remind myself to check and see if something needed to be taken out. If it was a roast, because it was big, I might have to take it out 2 days ahead of time if it was frozen to get it to thaw all the way out. I had to plan ahead. I do plan ahead, but I sometimes forget to take it out of the freezer. So that was something that took getting used to. It wasn't like, some of my packaged chicken breasts that I could put in some water and thaw it out in a couple hours. This was a huge thing of meat. So that was different. Overall, it went very, very well. I did learn a few things. I learned that my crock pot does, on the very back side, have a hot spot. And if I cooked on high, like you would a pot roast, all the way on the back, it would burn. And what I had to do is halfway through the cooking time, pull this out, the liner out. You see how it fits. It doesn't just come out. Well, now it's not going to come out at all, but it does come out. And I would actually have to take this out and rotate it, put it back in, and let it continue to cook because it would burn. So I'm definitely going to be looking around for a new crock pot. If you have any suggestions, please leave me a comment below if there's one that you would recommend. This is the crock pot version. This is an actual crock pot. I know you can get different brands and different slow cookers. Blah. So let me know what you think. The next thing that I learned is that my family preferred more of the spicier meals. Again, most of this was like meat stuff, so I personally didn't eat it. I had to go on what they liked, and they liked the spicier versions. One of their favorites that they both agreed on was the meatloaf sensation, and that's basically kitty. She says hello. Basically like a taco seasoned meatloaf. That was one they actually asked me to make again. My next thing that I learned was that they were not fans. Let me move Kitty. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. Kitty went to go sit in her room for a little bit. I'm sorry about that. She is very talkative this week, and we know she's here. So, as I was saying, the next thing that I learned was that my husband is not as much of a huge fan of, there goes the clock, very, very cheesy, strong cheese flavors. I know one of the shortcuts that a lot of people use is sharp cheddar, because you can use less of it. My husband's not a fan of it. He's not a fan of super, super cheesy. So like if you do mac and cheese, my husband's not a fan of that. there's the discussion right there. I'll let you know that. The recipe I use is based on my mother's recipe, not his mother's recipe. My mother used a lot more cheese and a different kind of cheese than what his mother used. So it's just preference. I will work on that. And there were some times that just toward the end of it, we would put cheese on it, or I would keep the cheese separate and let them sprinkle the cheese on if they wanted it. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. Another thing we learned is that they like the pastas, but they're not a huge fan of the pasta dishes. At least my husband is not as much of a fan as my son is. So those are things that I'm keeping into consideration as I'm making these. Again, most of them, all of the recipes that I made, they liked, just with a few adjustments. We found that canned mushrooms were not a favorite. They were a little chewy. So next time if we try this again, we'll probably use fresh. Little things like that. Some things we would add more seasoning to, make it a little stronger. Some things were a little too strong or a little too salty. One of the soups that we made was, I think it was the jalapeno popper, the chicken jalapeno popper soup. We used crackers to put in that. Or maybe that was the vegetable soup. Could have been the vegetable soup. I need to go back and look. Anyway, it was one of the soups. I think it could have been the vegetable soup. Anyway, that's beside the point. The crackers were salty. So if I was going to serve crackers again on the side, I would not put as much in the soup. Some of the soups that we made, some people loved it. Other people thought it was a little too spicy. So if you've been following along with any of the pictures that I have posted, know that you need to adjust the salts and the seasonings for your family's taste. And again, I would make these again. Some of these are going to be on our, my meal list. Definitely adding some of these to the meal list so that we'll have them ready. And again, some of them I'm probably going to mark off. We're going to change a few because it's not a favorite. And that's what we do, right, for our families. We cook what they like. So I'm so glad that you came by. I hope if you did a Crockpot challenge, you'll leave me a comment below and let me know how your month went or whatever you were doing. Did you have a favorite? Did it work out? I hope it did. My daughter-in-law did hers. And sadly, her insert cracked. So she didn't get to finish out the whole month. It happens. So we're both in the looking for a Crockpot now. But let me know if you tried this, what worked, what didn't. I'd be interested to know how it went for you. And again, if you haven't subscribed, I'd really love for you to do that and come back and have more fun. We don't always talk about food, but yes, if you know my family, we talk about food a lot. So I'm so glad you came. Please come back. I love you. God loves you. Bye, friends.